Intro. You can't keep playing small and praying for big. They say faith can move mountains, but what they don't tell you is that faith without action just moves your mouth. You can't whisper prayers for greatness while you tiptoe through life like a ghost afraid of being seen. You can't ask for more while living like less, because the universe doesn't respond to wishful thinking. It responds to alignment, to energy, to motion, to decision. You say you want the breakthrough, but you still hide your brilliance behind fear. You want the stage, but you speak in a whisper. You dream of impact, but you shrink every time opportunity knocks. You're playing small, then wondering why big things don't show up. Let me be clear, this isn't a message for everyone. This is for the one who knows they were meant for more, but somewhere along the way started praying for the fire, while still standing in the cold rain of their own excuses. This is your wake-up call, not from me, from the part of you that's tired of pretending you're fine in the shadows. You can't keep playing small and praying for big. And if that truth stings a little, good. That means you're finally ready to hear it. You can't keep playing small and praying for big. You can't whisper your dreams in the dark and expect the world to roar with applause. You can't ask the universe for mountains while crawling in the valley of your comfort. That's not how life works. That's not how growth works. And that's not how greatness is built. Because the world does not respond to wishes. It responds to declarations. It moves for the man who moves first. And you, yes, you were not built for small. You were not designed to tiptoe around your calling. You were not born to dim your light just to make others more comfortable in their shadows. You feel it, that pull, that unrest, that itch in your soul that keeps whispering there's more. That isn't anxiety, that isn't confusion. That is your spirit screaming at you. Stop shrinking. I didn't put you here to survive. I put you here to build. But here you are checking the temperature of the room before you speak your truth. Here you are asking for permission to be powerful. Here you are editing your dream to fit someone else's disbelief. And let me tell you something you might have forgotten. God didn't put greatness inside you just for you to manage it. He didn't give you vision just so you could keep the lights dim. He didn't plant the seed of a legacy just so you could water it with hesitation. You want big. You want to build something timeless. You want to make noise with your life. Then stop praying for oceans and refusing to leave the shore. Because the size of your blessing will never exceed the size of your courage. Never. And this is the part that no one teaches you. Life isn't going to wait for your confidence to catch up. It's going to throw you into fire, into pressure, into decision. Because that's where diamonds are made. That's where character is revealed. That's where the small version of you dies and the real version of you is born. You think Henry Ford was confident when he said, "I will build a car for the great multitude." They laughed at him. They mocked him. They said he was insane. But he wasn't praying for small. He was building for scale. And he didn't play at the level of public opinion. He played at the level of belief. That's your first shift. You stop playing at the level of comfort and you start playing at the level of conviction. Because comfort will lie to you. It'll tell you that next year is better. It'll whisper that now's not the time. But conviction. Conviction doesn't care about the clock. It moves because it must. It acts because the fire won't go out. It builds because it's been commanded by something deeper than logic, by vision. And hear me clearly. Every single person you admire, every empire you see, every breakthrough that looks impossible. It began with someone deciding not to play small anymore. It didn't start with resources. It didn't start with talent. It started with decision. A full-bodied, non-negotiable line-in-the-sand declaration. I will no longer ask for permission to live like I'm chosen. Because if you are praying for big, but still walking like you're invisible, you're sending mixed signals to the universe. You're saying, I want more, but you're choosing less. You're saying, I'm ready, but you're hiding. You're saying, I believe, but you're not moving. And make no mistake, belief without movement is just noise. It's spiritual laziness dressed up as faith. When Edison failed 1,000 times trying to create the light bulb, he wasn't playing small. He was obsessed. He was possessed by purpose. He didn't sit and pray for someone else to bring the light, he became it. You want to attract success? Then embody it. Stop asking for the doors to open while refusing to knock. Stop waiting for motivation and build discipline instead. Stop begging for clarity and start creating momentum. The fog clears after you move, not before. This is the law of cause and effect, not the law of cause and comfort, not the law of cause and consensus. You keep playing small because you're afraid. Afraid of what they'll say. Afraid of failing. Afraid of outgrowing people you love. But what you're not realizing is this. The pain of playing small will eventually become greater than the pain of stepping up. There will come a day where your own silence suffocates you, where your soul gets sick from all the times you held back, where someday becomes never. So let me ask you this directly. What exactly are you waiting for? The perfect time, the right conditions. Someone to tell you it's safe. That day isn't coming. Because big is never safe. Big is risky. Big is vulnerable. Big is lonely, misunderstood, and expensive. But it's also holy. It's divine. It's where the real work begins. And it's the only place where transformation lives. Let them call you crazy. Let them say you've changed. Let them misunderstand your urgency. This isn't about them. This is about you obeying the call on your life. Because here's the truth. The world doesn't need more polite, palatable, pleasing versions of potential. It needs more people who are on fire. It needs more people who refuse to live a life that looks good but feels hollow. It needs more warriors of purpose, unapologetic, unshakable, unrelenting. You are not here to survive your time. You are here to shape it, to pierce through mediocrity with excellence, to speak life where others echo doubt, to build in the face of fear, not hide from it. And yes, it's going to cost you comfort, approval, familiarity. But those are cheap currencies to trade for purpose. You weren't called to be liked. You were called to lead. So stop asking for big and moving like you still belong to small. Because every time you hesitate, every time you apologize for your power, every time you dim your light to keep someone else from squinting, you delay the destiny that's been waiting for you to finally decide. And that's the truth no one wants to face. We've built a world that rewards loud intentions, but not quiet execution. A society of surface-level ambition where people scream about their goals while silently betraying them every single day. And then when the results don't match the fantasy, they blame fate, timing, bad luck, or worse, God. As if God is obligated to deliver greatness to someone who never even prepared a space for it. You say you want abundance, but your habits scream lack. You pray for more, but your routines whisper comfort. You ask for a future that looks nothing like the life you live today. Understand this, you cannot keep playing small and praying for big. That's not faith. That's contradiction. That's not belief. That's betrayal. Betrayal of your own potential. Betrayal of the gifts inside you, and betrayal of the very source you claim to trust. Because faith without movement is mockery. Desire without discipline is delusion. And dreams without demand, without you placing a demand on yourself to grow, to rise, to evolve, are nothing but fantasies dressed in procrastination. You see, there's a universal law most people pretend doesn't exist. The law of congruence. You get not what you want, you get what you are. Life mirrors your energy, your effort, your expectations. You don't receive based on prayer alone, you receive based on alignment. internal alignment with external effort. Do you know why people stay stuck? Because they refuse to outgrow their surroundings. Because they keep shrinking to make others comfortable. Because they're more loyal to their limitations than to their liberation. They'll protect mediocrity like it's sacred. They'll defend smallness with passion. They'll repeat the stories that keep them trapped. I've never done this before. People like me don't succeed. I'm not ready yet, as if that absolves them from responsibility. But you're not here to play small. You never were. That fire you feel, that ache, that tension in your chest, when you see someone else walking fully in their calling, it's not envy, it's recognition. A piece of you remembers who you're supposed to be. A voice within knows you were made for more. But every time you silence it, every time you ignore it, and scroll past it and numb it with distraction, you bury yourself deeper in the soil of what could have been. And listen, this world does not reward the person who almost showed up. No one builds a legacy on intentions. No one rewrites history through almost. And no one becomes great by waiting for permission. You want transformation. You want a next level. Then let me say this clearly, you must earn it. Not with money, not with connections, but with character. With early mornings and late nights. With the decision to say no when comfort calls your name. With the grit to keep going when the applause disappears. You see, playing small isn't just about what you do, it's about how you think. It's every time you ask, what if I fail, instead of, what if I rise? It's every moment you choose to hide your light so someone else won't feel insecure. It's every opportunity you let pass you by because you were too busy overthinking instead of executing. But let me remind you, there is no glory in staying small. There is no nobility in underutilizing your gifts. There is no honor in dying with your potential still locked inside you. The world isn't waiting for another perfect person. It's waiting for a real one who's willing to bleed for their vision, one who's willing to take the hits and keep moving forward, one who's done making excuses and finally ready to make decisions. Because that's what changes everything, a decision. A ruthless, irreversible decision to stop playing life like a game of defense. To stop praying for escape while avoiding evolution. To stop asking for favor while running from fire. Yes, fire. Growth requires fire. Fire burns comfort. Fire exposes weakness. Fire forges identity. And most people can't stand the heat, so they stay in the shadows. They want destiny, but they don't want discomfort. They want abundance, but they never plant, never water, never tend. And then they wonder why nothing grows. But you're different. Or you wouldn't still be here listening to this heart-pounding, hands clenched, spirit whispering, let's go, that whisper. That's your future calling. That's your higher self breaking through the noise of average, saying, enough, it's time. So let me ask you, how long will you beg for what you're not willing to build? How long will you wait for signs when the call is already within you? How long will you keep asking God for more while living like less? There comes a moment when you must stop waiting for the breakthrough and become the breakthrough. A moment when you stop wishing for a better future and decide to forge one. You don't get to the next level by accident. You get there through clarity, through courage, through consistency so sharp it cuts through your former self like a sword, through the discipline to show up even when it's dark, even when it's quiet, even when no one's clapping. This is where transformation begins, not in comfort, but in commitment. Not in hoping, but in honing. Not in watching others build their empires, but in finally laying the first brick of your own. So if you've been playing small, I get it. It's familiar. It's safe. It requires no risk, no ridicule, no rejection. But it also gives you no reward. And now you've reached the point where the pain of staying the same is louder than the fear of change. That's where the old version of you dies. Not with a scream, but with a whisper, "I'm done." Done shrinking. Done negotiating. Done delaying what was placed inside you the moment you were born. You were born to build, to lead, to rise. And everything in your life up to this point, every failure, every heartbreak, every detour, wasn't a punishment. It was preparation. Because now you're ready to stop playing small and start moving like someone who knows he was born for impact. And once you move like that, once your actions match your prayers, heaven and earth start rearranging to meet your momentum. So move. You say you want more. You pray for more. You even cry for more. But every decision you make whispers less. Every morning you wake up with a vision of the life you could live, then walk straight back into the habits that are keeping you small. You scroll instead of study. You react instead of reflect. You doubt instead of decide. You want God to open doors, but you won't knock. You want the universe to deliver, but you won't prepare the room. You want to walk through fire, but you flinch at the heat of discomfort. And here's the truth. Most people can't bear to face. The size of your life will never exceed the size of your standards. Wishing for abundance with a poverty of effort is spiritual hypocrisy. You are not being tested by circumstances, you're being tested by choice. Every single day, life asks, will you be bold? Or will you blend? Will you build? Or will you be? Stop asking for a mansion while you're still sweeping dirt under the rug in your mind. Stop dreaming of impact while you're hiding your voice behind perfectionism. The world doesn't need another polite spectator. It needs a dangerous doer. There is no greatness in safety, and there is no anointing in avoidance. If you want to rise, you have to be willing to rupture the version of you that fits in. Because every level of elevation demands eviction of excuses of old stories of watered-down faith. You want to play on the stage of giants? Then stop rehearsing the lines of the fearful. Look at Lincoln. The man failed in business, lost multiple elections, battled depression, but he didn't shrink. He got clearer, sharper, relentless. He saw freedom not just as a dream, but a duty. That's the difference between a visionary and a wanderer. The visionary suffers for something larger. The wanderer suffers from avoiding that something altogether. Your fear of failure is not the problem. Your addiction to comfort is. Because comfort breeds compromise. And compromise is the quiet assassin of purpose. The universe doesn't respond to your potential. It responds to your posture. And right now you're bowed to mediocrity when you were made to stand in power. Not arrogance, not ego. Power rooted in clarity. Power rooted in obedience. Power rooted in the awareness that you are responsible for everything you ask for. Let me ask you something. No one else will. If God gave you the exact thing you're praying for right now, would it survive in your current mindset? Could you carry it? Or would it collapse under the weight of your lack of preparation? You say you're waiting on timing, but timing isn't late. You are late to commit, late to cut distractions, late to say, enough is enough. I refuse to die with this potential still in me. Do you understand what you're holding? You carry a dream that could change bloodlines, a gift that could rewrite legacies. But you're treating it like a hobby. And the truth is, most people won't tell you this because they want to stay comfortable next to you. They don't want you to rise. Because if you rise, they have no excuse left for their own stagnation. But hear me clearly. This message isn't for those who want to be liked. It's for the ones who are done being tolerated. It's for the ones who are ready to become undeniable. The ones who understand that playing small isn't humility. It's disobedience. You weren't made to blend into a sea of half-hearted living. You were made to command with presence, to lead with fire, to build like your soul depends on it, because it does. You think the storm is your enemy, but the storm is your training ground. It's there to break the parts of you that can't go to the next level. It's there to strip away everything temporary until what's left is essential. This is why Edison failed 1,000 times, because one answer was worth more than 1,000 failures. This is why Carnegie poured into mindset and mentors, because he knew wealth wasn't in steel, it was in structure. This is why the greats became great, because they were willing to be seen failing in public, while the average stayed hidden in private. So what about you? Will you keep asking for the mountain, while refusing to lace up your boots? Will you keep begging for clarity, while sleeping through the silence meant to deliver it? Will you keep praying for big, while performing small? No, not anymore. This moment right now is where you break the contract with comfort. This is where you stop running your life off of the emotion and start living by execution. This is where you stare down the ghost of who you could have been and say, "Watch me now," because from this moment forward, there is no going back. Only forward, only higher, only all in. Now keep going. So let me ask you again, what have you been tolerating? What habits have you let slide? Because just this once didn't feel like a threat. What dreams have you delayed because you told yourself the timing wasn't right? You can't keep playing small and praying for big. You can't kneel in prayer for the mountaintop while crawling back to the valley every time fear knocks on your door. Listen, this is not an attack on your faith. This is a reminder that faith without movement is nothing more than superstition. You say you believe in the vision God gave you, but your actions scream otherwise. You ask for doors to be opened, but won't leave your comfort zone to walk through them. You want the blessing, but not the breaking. You want the crown, but not the cross. And I get it, fear is persuasive. It dresses itself in logic. It sounds like responsibility. It whispers things like, "Be realistic," or "What if it doesn't work?" But you forget. So did every person who ever built something great. Henry Ford was told he was a lunatic for betting everything on the combustion engine. Edison failed 10,000 times to make a light bulb. Lincoln lost more elections than most people can count. But they moved anyway. They didn't ask the world for permission. They didn't wait for confidence. They built confidence by taking action in the face of uncertainty. Because success doesn't respond to hope, it responds to alignment. What you say, what you do, what you think, when those are aligned with the future you claim to want, you move mountains. But if your vision is big and your behavior is small, the universe gets confused. And confusion creates delay. You say you're called to greatness, but your habits are designed for mediocrity. You want a life that sets your soul on fire, but you keep dousing the flame with distraction, with hesitation, with compromise. You say you're waiting on God, but maybe God's been waiting on you, waiting for you to stop asking for a life you're not building, waiting for you to stop negotiating with the old version of yourself, waiting for you to rise, because every dream has a cost, and the price is always the current version of you. The one who hits snooze, the one who says tomorrow, the one who scrolls instead of studies, who reacts instead of creates. That version cannot come with you. You have to bury it in discipline. You have to starve it with structure. You have to make a declaration in your routine so loud your old excuses don't recognize you anymore. Let's get brutally honest. How you live your days is how you build your future. There is no later when it comes to purpose. There is no someday on the calendar of the determined. The decisions you make today, the food you eat, the thoughts you tolerate, the people you surround yourself with, those choices are carving your destiny brick by brick. So ask yourself, am I building a temple or a tomb? Because small thinking is a slow death. It suffocates potential one compromise at a time. It convinces you to settle, to shrink, to accept comfort as currency and call it peace. But there is no peace in unfulfilled potential. There is only restlessness. There is only the silent scream of dreams abandoned too soon. And I promise you this, your soul was not designed to live in a cage. You are not here to blend in. You are not here to tiptoe through life. hoping to arrive safely at death. You are not here to numb yourself into silence and call it wisdom. You are here to rise, to roar, to wake up every cell in your body with the fire of purpose and become who you were created to be. But that journey, it demands everything. It demands clarity because you can't hit a target you won't name. It demands courage because the path to greatness is paved with resistance. It demands stillness because a noisy mind cannot hear divine direction. And it demands discipline because the moment you let comfort lead you, drift. Don't romanticize struggle, but don't run from it either. The pressure you feel, it's a gift. It's the forge where future warriors are shaped. No gold has ever been made without fire. No sword has ever been sharpened without friction. If life is pressing, maybe it's preparing you. But the question remains, are you responding with power or with pity? Because you can't have both. You can't say, I want to build an empire, and act like someone waiting for a paycheck. You can't talk legacy and live like a liability. You can't ask for more while refusing to become more. That's not ambition, that's delusion. And delusion is the enemy of destiny. You've prayed enough, you've journaled enough, you've read the books, watched the reels, listened to the speeches. Now it's time to move. It's time to get radical with your routine, to burn the fallback plan, to cut off access to mediocrity so the only path left is progress. That's how people change. That's how worlds get built. That's how mountains move not by prayer alone, but by prayer backed with pursuit. You want the anointing. Show up with structure. You want the results. Show up with repetition. You want the calling, show up with commitment. Not for a week, not until it's uncomfortable, not until the fire fades, but until the work becomes who you are. Because that's when momentum starts. That's when your identity shifts. That's when the man you used to be disappears into the rearview mirror, replaced by someone who doesn't hope for greatness, he executes it. And maybe that's the real message. Greatness isn't something you find, it's something you decide, something you embody, something you practice until the world has no choice but to reflect it back. You don't become it by accident. You become it by design. So design wisely. Because the truth is simple, even if it's hard, you will never manifest a life bigger than the one you believe you deserve. You will never walk into rooms you're still trying to talk yourself into. You will never outrun the version of you that you keep feeding with excuses. You can't keep playing small and praying for big. And this is where most people fall. Right here in the space between their potential and their practice. In the space between the dream they shout and the discipline they show. They want greatness, but they play it safe. They talk legacy, but live by convenience. They whisper prayers for overflow, while shrinking themselves to fit into rooms they were called to transform. It's not that they don't believe in God, it's that they don't believe God could actually use them. But listen to me closely, you don't get to shrink and shine at the same time. You don't get to pray for a mountain-moving life while tiptoeing around hills. You don't get to keep your insecurities comfortable and still expect heaven to pour out miracles. Heaven doesn't respond to hesitation. It responds to hunger. It answers the bold, the ones who step even while trembling, the ones who move even without the map, the ones who refuse to settle for what's probable and instead go after what's possible. You see, faith isn't a feeling, it's a decision. And courage is not the absence of fear, it is the refusal to be ruled by it. Too many are sitting on gifts that were never meant to be buried under excuses, buried under doubt, buried under what-ifs and what will they thinks. But the cemetery is already full of untapped potential, of businesses never launched, of books never written, of ideas that died inside people who were too scared to look foolish trying. You were never called to be safe. You were called to build something eternal. There's a reason the dream keeps visiting you in the night. It's not a coincidence, it's a calling. And if you're still breathing, it means the assignment hasn't expired. The dream hasn't given up on you. But you've got to stop putting your dream on the altar of other people's opinions. You've got to stop measuring your future with the yardstick of your past. What if the version of you you're praying to become is waiting on you to go first, to speak like you already have it, to walk like it's already done, to plan like God already cleared the path? Because He has, but He won't walk it for you. You've got to get uncomfortable. You've got to raise your standard higher than your current surroundings. You've got to demand more from yourself when no one's clapping, when no one's watching, when no one's validating you. Because that's what separates people who live on purpose from people who live by accident. You can't fake energy. You can't borrow belief forever. Eventually, you've got to become the thing you admire, and becoming demands cost. So you have to ask yourself, what are you willing to lose to become who you were meant to be? Because you can't take everyone with you. You can't keep every comfort. You can't hold on to the life that's killing your fire. There will be pruning. There will be pressure. There will be seasons of isolation. But growth has always been noisy underground before it ever shows up in the open. That silence, that struggle, that sense that nothing is working. It's working. It's building something in you that no shortcut ever could. It's creating depth. It's making you undeniable. Because let me tell you something, when your time comes, and it will, all the private discipline, the early mornings, the silent tears, the lonely breakthroughs, the hidden work, it will show. It will be felt in the weight of your voice. It will be seen in the clarity of your eyes. It will be known by the way you walk into a room, not needing to be seen, but impossible to ignore. This is what playing big means. Not arrogance, not attention, but alignment. Living in such harmony with your purpose that anything that isn't it feels like poison. But you'll never get there while playing small. You'll never get there while waiting for perfect timing. You'll never get there while asking for permission from people who stopped dreaming years ago. It's on you now to decide what your future deserves, to decide who you're going to be when no one's watching, to stop talking about potential and start living with proof. Because potential is not power until it's executed, and belief is not faith until it's moved on. And dreams don't change the world, execution does. So don't tell me about your calling, show me your calendar. Don't talk to me about vision, show me your routine. Don't post about greatness, live it in the dark when no one's applauding. Because the work will reveal itself, always. And when it does, it will make one thing crystal clear. You never needed to be more talented. You just needed to stop playing small. You just needed to stop asking for strength while avoiding struggle. You just needed to stop waiting for motivation and start building discipline. You just needed to stop praying for impact and start becoming someone worth following. Because that version of you that you see when you close your eyes, that version who moves with certainty, who speaks with power, who leads with clarity, that version already exists. But he won't show up while you're playing small. He shows up when you finally burn the backup plans. When you stop living by feelings and start living by standard. So raise yours. Now. Not when it's convenient. Not when it's comfortable. Not when it's approved. Now, while no one's watching. Now when it hurts. Now when it would be easier to delay. Because this is the season where most people shrink. But you won't. You won't because you've seen what playing small costs. And you've decided it's too expensive. So start living like you would believe what you asked for is already yours. Start moving like your prayer has already been answered. Because the only thing left between you and the life you were called to build is the decision to stop playing small. You say you want the mountain, but you keep tiptoeing around the base. You say you're ready for the next level, but your daily actions are still living at the last one. And that gap between what you're asking for and what you're becoming, that's the very reason you don't receive it. The universe is not ignoring you. God is not deaf to your prayers. But the question is, do your habits look like someone ready to receive what you're begging for? You can't keep asking for abundance while entertaining habits rooted in lack. You can't pray for overflow while hoarding comfort like it's your last breath. You can't keep talking about destiny while you negotiate with distraction like it's your best friend. This is the part nobody wants to hear. Most people are not blocked by the devil. They're blocked by their indecision, by their comfort, by their addiction to being liked, to being approved, to being seen as humble instead of becoming powerful. But let me tell you something. Power is not arrogance, it's alignment. Humility is not playing small, it's being precise. And faith? Real faith is when you act like the vision already belongs to you. You think faith is what happens when you're on your knees, whispering into the dark. But faith is what you do after you get up. It's in how you walk, how you decide, how you spend your time. It's in what you cancel, what you quit, and what you protect without apology. Don't say you're ready if you're still living like a maybe. Because the version of you that was meant to impact nations, shift generations, break chains, that version of you is being suffocated by every moment you choose silence, when you should speak by every time you scroll, when you should build by every yes. You give to the familiar when you were called for the extraordinary. Look, the doors won't open just because you want them to. They open because you become someone that can walk through them without folding, without shrinking, without needing to be rescued halfway. And if you keep playing small in your thoughts, in your speech, in your movement, while praying for big, you will miss the very thing God was trying to give you. Because here's the hard truth, God doesn't bless who you pretend to be. He blesses who you become through sweat, through sacrifice, through structure, through relentless self-honesty. The people who rise aren't luckier, they're just more willing to endure boredom, willing to endure friction, willing to stand alone, willing to look foolish, willing to leave the crowd and not go back just because it got quiet. You've been asking for clarity, but clarity doesn't come before movement. Clarity is a reward for motion. It's given to the ones who move with courage before the answers arrive. So stop using "I'm still figuring it out" as a disguise for fear. Stop saying "I'm being patient" when what you're really doing is procrastinating with a spiritual name tag on. Stop calling it God's timing when it's really your hesitation dressed in Sunday clothes. Sometimes the Red Sea doesn't part until you step. Sometimes the storm doesn't calm until you speak. And sometimes your life doesn't change until you finally stop negotiating with your old self. There is a cost to the calling, a price for the promise. And if you want to walk into the big life, the bold life, the wildly fulfilled life, you have to pay it in full. Not with comfort, not with convenience, but with commitment. Daily, repeatedly, relentlessly. You must trade the old habits for new standards. Trade the gossip for growth. Trade the reaction for intention. Trade the opinions of others for the opinion that matters most. The one you'll hear when the room is silent and it's just you and your own reflection. Because there will come a night when you're lying in bed with no one around, and the only thing echoing in your chest is the quiet ache of a life that could have been. And the pain of almost is heavier than the pain of tried. The weight of someday is heavier than the sweat of now. This life, your life, doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you become. So the next time you feel like praying for something big, ask yourself first, am I living big? Am I showing up in a way that reflects what I say I believe? Because prayers are not magic spells. They are spiritual contracts, and every contract requires execution. So execute. You can't just post about purpose, you must pursue it. You can't just dream about discipline, you must demonstrate it. You can't just visualize the vision, you must become the vessel that carries it. And that means every thought, every step, every word must align. You don't get to keep both. You don't get to play small and live big. You don't get to stay comfortable and make history. So what will it be? The same loop you've run for years, or the moment you finally rise and refuse to go back? Because once you decide, once you lock in, once you burn the plan B, something changes in the spirit, in the mind, in the physical. Your life starts making room for the version of you that's no longer hiding. But the longer you delay, the more expensive your potential becomes. You're not too late, but you are being tested. Will you rise now or wait until the cost of playing small is unbearable? The window is now. Your moment is now. Your name is being whispered in rooms you haven't walked into yet, but that version of you can't walk in wearing fear. So stop shrinking. You can't keep playing small and praying for big. You weren't designed to live in fragments, not mentally, not spiritually, not in your habits, your identity, your pursuit of what matters. But that's exactly what happens when you try to pray for big and act for small. There's a fracture in your faith when your mouth says, "I believe," but your calendar shows hesitation, procrastination, comfort chasing. You become a house divided, and no house divided can stand. So let me ask you a question that should shake your bones if God opened the door you've been praying for right now. Are you even ready to walk through it? Would your current discipline carry you through that opportunity? Would your current confidence speak in the room you want to be invited into? Would your current habits sustain the weight of success you say you're called to? Because this world doesn't just test your desire, it tests your preparation. The universe doesn't bless who you pretend to be. It blesses who you become through fire, through structure, through decision. Faith without structure is a dream that dies at dawn. And that's why so many never build what they've been shown in vision, not because the vision was wrong, but because they were unwilling to die to the version of themselves that can't carry it. You want the platform, you want the abundance, you want the calling. Then bury the version of you that can't handle it. Don't wait for life to force you. Don't wait for rock bottom. Don't wait for a miracle. Be the miracle. Because miracles aren't always flashes of lightning in the sky. Sometimes they're choices made in silence, every day, with no applause. Sometimes they look like waking up when it's dark to train a body nobody sees yet. Sometimes they look like sitting alone at your desk, building something nobody believes in but you. Sometimes they look like walking away from everything that's been familiar. Because familiar is where your greatness was suffocating. The truth. Greatness is allergic to comfort. It doesn't grow in places where your standards are negotiable. It doesn't appear when you show up half-hearted, halfway, half awake. It reveals itself when you outlast the excuses, when you outgrow the old voices, when you outperform the habits that were built for survival, not legacy. You are not here to survive. You are here to stretch, to strain, to stand in the storm and scream back, "I was made for this." Because you were, but not as you are, as you're becoming. And the only way to become that version is to break the cycle of playing small, the cycle of hiding behind humility when it's really just fear, of staying silent in the name of patience when it's really just permission-seeking. You don't need more permission. You need more proof. Proof to yourself, not them. Because when the habits are locked in, the proof stacks up. And that proof will silence the doubt faster than any affirmation ever will. It's not what you say in the mirror that changes you. It's what you do after you walk away from it. It's the invisible days, the private wins, the decisions you make when nobody's watching, the respect you build in silence. And when that self-respect reaches critical mass, your whole life changes. Because the world doesn't give you what you want, it mirrors what you tolerate. And too many are tolerating a version of themselves that's starving to be upgraded. They keep praying for breakthrough but eating habits that kill their momentum. They keep dreaming of impact but hanging out with people who drain their soul. They say they want abundance but keep spending their mornings scrolling instead of studying, building breathing life into their purpose. And somewhere deep inside, they know. That conviction keeps knocking louder each year. That divine discomfort in your chest. That's not punishment. That's the call. And it won't go away. Because you were never supposed to stay there. And you know it. So stop trying to negotiate with the next level. Stop waiting for the stars to align. Stop asking for a breakthrough and refusing to move your feet. What you're praying for is already in motion, but it won't meet you where you're stuck. It will meet you where you rise. You want more. Be more. Be the version of you who doesn't check the phone first thing in the morning. Be the version who gets up before the world and reminds it who you are becoming. Be the version who doesn't need hype or applause or validation, because your consistency is your conviction. And every step you take without being seen builds the foundation for a life that can't be ignored. Not because you shouted louder, but because you moved like someone who knew that the old you was never going to bring the vision to life, who knew that the calling was real and the responsibility even more so. And here's the final truth I need you to swallow without flinching. If you don't respect your own potential, you'll keep attracting people who don't either. And your circle will reflect your standards until the day you raise them. Not because you're better than others, but because you're no longer better than yourself. You've been living 10%, 40%, maybe 70% of your power. And that gap. That's where your frustration lives. That's the ache in your gut that whispers, this isn't all you, it's not, and you know it. So don't keep asking for big while making decisions that keep you small. Don't keep asking for influence while avoiding the inner work of discipline, clarity, focus. And above all, don't keep asking for more from life if you're still saying no to becoming the version of you who can hold it. Because that version, he's not waiting in the future. He's waiting on your decision. Right here, right now. And here's the truth they don't teach in school, in sermons, or on stages that feed you surface-level hype. Faith without movement is fantasy. You can't sit in a room begging for rain and never walk outside to plant a seed. You can't ask God to expand your territory and still chain yourself to the same habits, the same circle, the same voice that tells you you're not ready. Prayer is not a substitute for progress. It's fuel for it. You are not waiting on God. God is waiting on you. That's the part they don't say out loud because it places responsibility back in your lap. Because it demands you stop outsourcing your destiny to timing fate or other people's permission. The truth is the universe or God, or whatever name you call the divine, doesn't respond to begging. It responds to alignment, to execution, to obedience in motion. Stop treating your vision like a lottery ticket. Stop praying for mountains to move while you're still sitting on the couch waiting for a sign. You are the sign. Your desire isn't random. It's a glimpse into who you were designed to become. But you don't attract greatness by wishing for it. You attract it by preparing for it. Every single day you rise with intention. You're showing the world that you're no longer playing small. You're walking like it's already yours. Speaking like you already carry it. Moving like the next level is your current standard, not some distant dream. Because prayer alone won't build the business, won't sculpt the body, won't write the book, won't rebuild the confidence your past broke down. You will, through sweat, through tears, through silence, through choices that seem invisible to everyone else but are sacred to you. Through days when you feel unseen but keep showing up anyway. That's the battlefield. That's where men are forged, where women rise, where leaders are born. Not in the light, but in the quiet corners of the day where no one claps, where no one watches and still you deliver. And here's what separates the ones who change their lives from the ones who keep hoping for change. They understand that God doesn't bless comfort. He blesses courage. He blesses the moment you choose growth over fear, the moment you pick purpose over pleasure, the moment you move forward trembling but still moving, the moment you burn the backup plan and walk with nothing but belief and fire. Because faith without action is fiction. It's a feel-good lullaby for the undisciplined. But when you combine belief with movement, now you've got something unstoppable. The world opens up to the one who shows he's willing to bleed for what he believes. The universe bends for the one who takes the first step without needing to see the last. So no, you don't need more motivation. You need obedience to the call. You don't need another sign. You need to stop negotiating with your potential. You don't need the perfect plan. You need to move anyway. Understand this. You were not created to live inside a box of your own making. You were designed for overflow, for legacy, for dominion. But you can't walk into the palace still dressing like a prisoner. You can't keep rehearsing your pain and expecting to live in power. You can't keep repeating the language of limitation and then act shocked when abundance doesn't answer. So today, right now, decide. Not feel. Decide. Decide to stop hiding. Decide to stop shrinking. Decide to stop pretending your smallness is humility. Because humility isn't denying your power. It's surrendering your ego to a higher mission. It's using your gifts for impact instead of applause. It's saying, I know I'm not enough on my own, but with alignment, I become a vessel. That's the version of you the world needs. Not the you that blends in, not the you that waits for approval, but the you that finally realizes, if I don't become it, no one's coming to build it for me. This next level of your life, it won't respond to convenience. It won't respond to insecurity. It won't respond to passive hope. It will only respond to the version of you that's willing to pay the price. So write the check, cash it in discipline, sign it with sweat, deliver it in silence, and when the harvest comes, you won't have to post about it. You'll wear it. You'll carry it in your presence, in the way you walk into rooms and shift energy without saying a word, in the way your name gets whispered in places you've never stepped foot because your work spoke so loud your essence couldn't be ignored. But none of it happens while you're still playing small. So stop praying for a table you refuse to build. Stop asking for a door you're too afraid to knock on. Stop begging for purpose while running from the process. There's no miracle coming. You are it. The answered prayer, the generational breaker, the new standard in your bloodline, the evidence that it's possible, that faith plus movement creates legacy. But legacy doesn't shout, it whispers through quiet days and lonely nights and boring reps and unglamorous habits. So if you want the big, bold breakthrough life, don't chase it. Become it. And the moment you do, everything will change. You've been given something rare, the awareness that your life as it stands is smaller than what your spirit knows it can be. That's the real agony, isn't it? Not failure, not rejection, not even poverty. It's potential left untouched. It's brilliance buried alive. It's a soul that screams for expansion, trapped in a mind that keeps playing defense. And yet, despite the ache, despite the dreams, despite all the nights you prayed for bigger, louder, bolder, you keep living like you were made to shrink. You pray for overflow but live in limitation. You ask for abundance but tolerate mediocrity. You want the mountain, but you keep dancing in the valley, convincing yourself that one day you'll climb. Let me tell you something that'll never sit well with the world, but it will liberate your destiny. God will never hand the keys of greatness to a soul that refuses to move. You can't beg for blessings and build no vessel. You can't demand more while hiding from responsibility. You can't cry for breakthroughs and still protect your comfort zone like it's sacred. You want to know why your prayers aren't working, because you're praying for something your habits are rejecting. You say you want success, but your daily actions contradict it. You want influence, but your silence speaks louder. You want wealth, but your discipline can't even last a week. You want big, but you still think small. And the world, life, God, the universe, it doesn't respond to your wishes. It responds to your alignment, to your decisions, to your persistence, to the energy you carry when no one's clapping, when no one's watching. That's what opens doors. That's what attracts miracles. Not sitting around waiting for the clouds to part while you keep repeating the same lazy patterns. There comes a moment where you have to stop asking for the light and start becoming the fire. You weren't built to crawl. You were born to charge forward with sacred defiance, to shock the world with how much you can endure, how much you can build, and how many generations your courage can set free. You think the billionaires got lucky? You think the powerful just stumbled into it? No, they moved differently. They believed differently. They committed like their life depended on it, because it did. You're not in a holding pattern because you're unlucky. You're stuck because deep down, you're still negotiating with fear. Still waiting for someone to give you permission. Still hoping to get big results while staying small in your habits. Small in your risk. Small in your identity. But hear me, no one rises by staying small. Small prayers don't move mountains. Small minds don't rewrite legacies. Small decisions don't build empires. Small souls don't leave big footprints. You want to change your life, then kill the part of you that keeps hiding. Burn it. Not tomorrow, not next month. Now. That version of you, the one who hesitates, who overthinks, who waits for approval, is not coming with you. They don't survive at the next level. That's the cost. That's the price of the elevation you keep asking for. You don't get to become your future while clinging to your past. You don't get both. You either evolve or repeat. You either rise or retreat. You either become the person your vision demands, or you stay the person your excuses protect. This is the reckoning. This is the mirror moment. This is where your story changes or doesn't. And let me be very clear, the world owes you nothing. You are not entitled to results you haven't built respect, you haven't earned, or greatness you haven't sacrificed for. But if you do the work, if you truly decide, if you stop playing small and start acting like the storm you were meant to be, there's not a door on this earth that can stay closed to you. There's not a dream you can't drag into reality with brutal discipline, relentless energy, and sacred belief. So make the decision, not for applause, not for validation, not for aesthetics. Make it because your soul is suffocating in a life that was never meant to contain you. Make it because your legacy is worth more than your fear. Make it because the future is watching, and they're waiting to see if you were the one who finally said no more. No more shrinking, no more hiding, no more delay, no more excuses dressed up as logic. I am done playing small. I am done praying for things I refuse to pursue. I am done living like a fraction of what I was created to become. Because this life, this one chance, this single breath of existence will not end with regret. It will not be a tombstone of almost. It will be a monument to what happens when one soul decides to stop playing small and finally dares to live big. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them underestimate. Because the next time they see you, they won't recognize you. You won't recognize you. And the world won't recover from what you're about to do. So rise, not tomorrow, not next week, now, because this is the version of you that can't be denied. This is the version of you who doesn't ask, you claim. This is the version of you who doesn't pray for big. You become it. This wasn't a sermon. This was a mirror. And maybe for the first time you saw the version of you that's been waiting not outside but inside. The one who doesn't shrink to fit in. The one who doesn't ask permission to grow. The one who's done begging for breakthroughs and now builds them brick by brick. You've prayed long enough. Now it's time to move like it's already yours. Because playing small never honored your Creator, and settling never served your calling. If you want big, you have to become big. So stop apologizing, stop hesitating, stop negotiating with comfort. The life you asked for is watching. Not your words, your decisions. Go build it.